So, greetings and salutations. We extend our greetings to all of you. Welcome to the LCCB Quarterly Instructional Presentation / Seminar. Apologies for any technical issues that take place. Now, we would like all the personnel present to be made aware of the fresh faces in this presentation room. Some of you may have received a letter or a package, some of you perhaps even a special recommendation. Others, common employees, we will be going over topics and information that you may already be privy to, therefore you may excuse yourself until the information present is of use to your duties. Now, we have many things to go over, as our potential new hires here have little to no experience with this line of work, including how our Limbus company works and a brief description of its departments, an explanation on the specific purpose of the Limbus company clearance department, the position for which all of you applied, an overview of the old L Corp and the city as a whole, an introduction to abnormalities as well as the useful equipment they can provide to our forces if dealt with appropriately, your upcoming mission within the LCCB should you be hired into our company, as well as closing remarks. Now, let us not waste any more precious time and get started with how Limbus Company works. Our humble company functions through the many departments we possess. As you can see, many of our department heads have opted to have their names censored from this presentation for various reasons, which will not be elaborated upon, save for our chief researcher in the extraction department, our lead investigator in the distortion department, and the executive manager of the bus department. Limbus Company's primary objective is also considered classified. However, as it is important to your potential position within our company, we can divulge that the main method by which we achieve this goal is by collecting objects of immense worth known as golden boughs. These objects may resemble twigs cut from a tree, but do not let that fool you. The golden glow of these boughs signifies their limitless potential. With just one of these, we can power all sorts of technologies and even enter the realms of physical and psychological matter manipulation. With two, it is said that one could be granted a wish, no matter the scale. Put briefly, they have untold potential, and thus are highly valued by all in the city who are aware of their existence, which is usually the most dangerous people. Your jobs will not be easy. We will explain the origin of the golden boughs later in the presentation, but first we must properly introduce your future role in our system. I understand that the audio has cut for some of you, but we will proceed with the presentation anyways, as restarting would be a waste of time. Now, we are taking a look at specifically the departments under Limbus Company clearance. The positions you all applied for are in the LCCB, or Limbus Company Clearance Before team. As the Before team, employees are tasked with scouting and delving into dangerous areas potentially harboring a golden bough, which is often the abandoned branches of L Corp. More on that later. They then chart a path to the bough in order to make the retrieval process smoother. It is important to note that the Before team is not outfitted to collect the bough themselves. That job is left to the LCB, or Limbus Company Bus Department. The executive manager, Dante, commands a group of 12 employees dubbed the Sinners, and follows our guidance to proceed with the expedition until they claim the golden bough. Dante has the uncanny ability to sync his time period with that of the Sinners, allowing for the Sinners themselves to be brought back from even the most gruesome deaths, in exchange for the manager experiencing excruciating pain during the revivification process. This is a blessing we do not share with them, so it is important to exercise caution during your operations. This is then followed by the LCCA, our own dedicated cleanup force. They are sent in when the LCCB has completed their expedition and the LCB has successfully or failed to retrieve the golden bough. The employees here often complain about their jobs, as it is quite tiresome to clean up the wreckages and bodies left in the wake of the LCB. Now, to understand the context of your operations, we must go over your environment. Specifically, the horrifying hellscape many have come to call their home, the city. This massive ultra-megatropolis is the final bastion of humanity, and any region outside is considered the outskirts. The city is split into 26 districts, each one based on a letter of the alphabet. Each district is governed by a corresponding megacorporation called Wing, which greatly shapes the district's lifestyle and culture. Each wing is also in possession of a singularity, a unique piece of technology that is often capable of bending the rules of this world as we know it to create incredibly powerful tools and services. As an example, District 23W is home to Warp Corp, a megacorporation specializing in transportation. They utilize their singularity alongside standard teleportation technology in order to provide transportation on warp trains to and from anywhere in the city, and all that in less than 10 seconds. Currently, the wing is in decline due to a multitude of incidents occurring on these warp trains, one of which the LCB has already investigated. Further information is classified. Lobotomy Corporation, or L Corp, is the megacorporation of District 12, District L, and the source of the golden bows that we at Limbus Company wish to claim. In their prime, this wing specialized in energy production, which, thanks to their singularity, allowed them to harvest a green substance called enkephalin from reality-defying monsters called abnormalities. Enkephalin is a highly addictive substance and is also known to cause hallucinations, and since the wing has fallen, it has become a highly rare resource. The wing was completely destroyed in an incident called the White Nights and Dark Days. This caused enkephalin to become very valuable. During this incident, the entirety of the city was lit up, glowing in an indescribably warm light. Merely glancing at this light could enhance positive emotions and make someone feel at peace with existence. This light persisted for 4 days and 4 nights. Then, without warning, the light disappeared. And thus, we had 3 days and nights where the city was shrouded in darkness, which amplified negative emotions and spread despair throughout the districts. This event birthed the very first case of the distortion phenomenon, where a subject is overtaken by negative emotions to the point of having their consciousness shatter into millions of pieces, morphing their body into a monstrous depiction of these very emotions. Shortly after the Dark Days, a massive tree-like towering structure was created. We dubbed it the Library. It seemed to possess some of the light that radiated from the White Knights. This structure was quickly deemed a threat by the city, and many lost their lives within its halls. According to our database, people could enter the library when they were at their wits' end, as a mysterious invitation would magically appear in their hands. Not to be confused, of course, with the invitation you all received to join our humble company. If they entered the library, they were given the chance to find knowledge about anything they desired. If they were to die in the library, their body would be turned into a book, which others could then try to retrieve. A few months after its arrival, the head of District A banished the entire building to the outskirts, where it is now. This means that District L is currently an empty lot, with a lot of criminal syndicates attempting to take control of the land. Well, now that the history lesson is over, we will move on to details regarding the creatures you will be encountering on your expeditions. Apologies again for technical disturbances. Abnormalities, casually referred to as abnos by our staff, are monsters that take the appearance of various creatures and ideas from history, concepts, and mythology. They are different from distortions in how they possess no sentience beyond the surface level of what they depict, unlike distortions which actively represent a human person's emotions. They possess incredible powers and abilities that make them a dangerous force to mess with, should you come across one during your expeditions. Abnormalities can typically share resemblances with humanoids, animal creatures, and constructs, as presented to the right. Their origins are not fully understood as of today, but we do know that Lobotomy Corporation understood how to harvest enkephalin from them, though that is not your objective within the LCCB. Instead, you will likely be engaging in combat with these creatures, as locations with the presence of a golden bough are often teeming with them. Therefore, here are some notes regarding combat with abnormalities. When engaging with them, it is vital that you target them carefully. Abnormalities often divide their strengths between multiple parts, each one aiding in different function for the creature's abilities. Thus, focusing on breaking or severing certain parts may weaken the abnormality and offer you a chance to defeat it. However, do note that abnormalities cannot die in the typical sense, instead returning to a core state where they take the shape of an egg. After a variable amount of time passes, the abnormality will reform. Though we have performed thorough testing, we find the eggs or core forms to be indestructible, thus causing the abnormalities to be effectively immortal. It is important to remember that abnormalities, though capable of communication and limited emotion and decision-making, will not stray from their origins as concepts or historical/mythological references. If you deem an abnormality of no threat to you combat-wise, you may gain boons from conversing with it. In the old Lobotomy Corporation, abnormalities were given classification codes depending on their ease of exploitation, that is to say, the ease of which employees could perform managerial work and thus harvest enkephalin. We at Limbus Company have opted to maintain this classification system while changing the context from exploitability to threat level. From least life-threatening to most life-threatening are Zayin, Teth, He, Wow, and Aleph. While Zayin abnormalities may even be friendly to you on rare circumstances, Aleph class abnormalities could eradicate hundreds before one could even take a breath. Therefore, I implore you to utilize your abnormality management manual, which you will receive before your first expedition, to discern low-threat abnormalities from high-threat ones. Now, while abnormalities have been painted as obstacles to your objectives here at Limbus Company, they do possess one invaluable property that we have managed to exploit thanks to our researchers in the extraction department. And that is ego. The process through which a living being's strong emotions and mental fortitude manifest as physical matter. Through methods which will remain confidential, the LCE, Limbus Company Extraction, is capable of extracting those powerful physical and mental traits from abnormalities in order to create weapons and armor utilizing the abnormality's property. This equipment is called ego gear. Let us take, for example, Yisang, one of the 12 sinners of the LCB. By utilizing ego extraction technology, he will assimilate the traits of this abnormality, the drifting fox, gaining its physical and mental traits. Do note that utilizing ego technology requires a strong will, as you also gain the abnormality's limited memories. In the case of Yisang here, he would gain the memories of sadness that the drifting fox embodies, since it is a reference to an old Korean folktale. It is said in the tale that when a tiger married a fox spirit, there was a cloud in the sky that grew so jealous it began to endlessly cry, raining on the fox spirit for the rest of time. Thus, the fox was left alone, with no one but the sky raining on them. The drifting fox has umbrellas impaled within them, most likely from people passing by offering kindness. The state of the umbrellas, on the other hand, shows that those acts of kindness were self-serving, only to inflate the ego. These are the thoughts and memories that will inhabit your body for the duration of your use of the ego. When you stop utilizing the ego's abilities, those memories will disappear, and while you will remember having used the ego, the stories and feelings will have dissipated. In another example, we have LCB sinner Sinclair utilizing the ego of the hurting teddy bear abnormality, a plush bear that was abused to the point of becoming imbued with curses. Now, while these egos are very powerful, there is a caveat. Whenever one uses the power of ego, it puts a strain on the mind, causing more and more mental pain the longer you rely on it. In the case of both of our sinners, using the ego too much results in a phenomenon we call ego corrosion, where the traits of the abnormality begin to override those of the wearer. While this does strengthen you further, it will drain your sanity. Losing too much sanity may result in permanent brain damage, rendering you inanimate at best. The sinners of the LCB utilize ego and corrosion much more carelessly due to their revivification clause with Executive Manager Dante, but we at the LCCB are much more fragile, so do keep that in mind. Another important thing to note is that you will not be outfitted with ego gear for your expedition. The LCB's methods of using ego are unique, and our extraction tech is still in the prototype phase. You may, however, come across old L-Corp ego gear during your expeditions, and are authorized to use that equipment as you see fit in the context of your mission. Speaking of which, let us move on, as we will discuss it. The very mission you are applying for here in our humble company. As the new hires of Limbus Company, Clearance Before Team, you will be tasked with scouting the interior of an abandoned Lobotomy Corp branch located in District F. Your primary objectives are as follows. You must chart a course within the branch to locate the Golden Bough. Additionally, you should find any research notes relating to the White Knight and Dark Days incident. Please consider gathering it for us. Optionally, you may also gather old L-Corp technology, be it enkephalin modules or ego gear as stated previously. Before you is presented the layout for the first floor of Lobotomy Corp's branch in District G. Though we cannot guarantee it, it is likely that the branch you will be delving into bears a similar concept in terms of construction. From a starting point, you will enter combat zones, places where it would be highly difficult to avoid confrontations. Then there's containment units, halls in the case of this branch. There you will no doubt come across the abnormalities this branch was managing prior to the collapse of L-Corp. Then there is rest zones, places housing old L-Corp tech, allowing employees to take longer rests while not spending as much time off of work. A perfect place to recuperate. Following it is what some of our employees colloquially call a boss room. These are rooms located next to the passageway to the deeper floors of the facility. In nearly every excursion into these branches, our forces have had to deal with exceptionally powerful abnormalities here, so please exercise caution. We cannot confirm whether or not the branch in District F contains multiple floors, but it is highly likely. As one final note before we close off our quarterly instructional presentation, there are creatures that you will encounter within the branches that are not considered abnormalities. The Pecatulum. Within the depths of these expeditions, you will find these creatures, Pecatulum, Pecatula singular. Pecatula are a kind of aggressive and animalistic creature originating from humans. While distortions reflect something deep within the heart of the affected person, Pecatula, on the other hand, entirely dispose of the transformed individuality. When a person undergoes the process of distortion and fails to fully distort their form, they instead become a form of Pecatula, corresponding with the sin they embodied in life. The keen-eyed of you will have noticed the consistent change of colors as we have progressed through this presentation. In fact, this correlates well with the color of the sins on our company logo, as well as the Pecatulum themselves. Superbiae, pride. Pecatulum avaritiae, greed, which also constitutes gluttony. Pecatulum invidiae, envy, of which all we know is the appearance of the corpse, as they are capable of advanced human mimicry. Pecatulum aerae, wrath. Pecatulum luxuriae, lust. Pecatulum gulae, also known as Pecatulum morositatis, representing gloom. And finally, Pecatulum pigritia, sloth. These humans turned mindless beasts will be the main opposing force aside from abnormalities during your mission. Additionally, we have noticed that the Pecatulum are capable of evolution in some sense. Depending on their distance from the Golden Bough, the Pecatulum may become stronger, growing from Class 1 to Class 2 Pecatulums. There are even certain types that have been documented to reach a Class 3. Thus concludes the Limbus Company quarterly instructional presentation/seminar. In a brief moment, we will now allow for a Q&A period to those who wish to know more. As for the others, we appreciate your patience and hope to see you at the next seminar. Now, get back to work. Time waits for no one. Sins go unpunished. The righteous fall, and the malicious prosper. This is our way of life, and the only way of life. After all, we are but